Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you doing? Are you enjoying this amazing conference? I can tell you one thing. Let's start in the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In 92, that one day I would be a practicing Muslim and standing in front of all of you to tell my tale that I was introduced to Islam. Not by a long-bearded imam who perhaps rammed religious rulings down my throat. No, by a handsome sports star, Imran Khan. And I don't know if you know Imran Khan here in America. He was the captain of a cricket team in Pakistan, and he is now running for prime minister also in Pakistan. I would have said to them they must be absolutely mad, because I was living a life very far from religion, let alone Islam. I was working in an environment, that obviously was filled with lights, glamour, action, stars, all sorts of things, but not exactly spirituality. But God works in mysterious ways, and He knows what He's doing. So from a life of hedonism and materialism, I was guided to find contentment and inner peace by surrendering to God in Islam. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Takbir. Before I reverted 15 years ago, you can say I had everything a normal Western teenager may dream of. After my education as a radio journalist in Germany, once I went on stage in front of not 8,000 people, but 70,000 people. There was a sea of people and everybody screaming and clapping, and it felt like floating on a cloud of energy. But then when I went back to my hotel room, with the noise still ringing in my ears, I felt lonely. And somehow I had to come down from this rush of energy. I often was quite unhappy and not really satisfied, despite having everything, you could say, materially, externally. But something was missing, and I did not know what it was. I thought perhaps it was a partner, a soulmate. But in retrospect, no human being could have filled that inner void, only the divine. And that was not part of my life at the time. Eventually, and it was at this time of dissatisfaction that I was introduced to Islam, not by a long-bearded imam who perhaps rammed religious rulings down my throat. No, by a handsome sports star, Imran Khan. And I don't know if you know Imran Khan here in America. He was the captain of a cricket team in Pakistan, and he is now running for prime minister also in Pakistan. Anyway, so he talked about philosophy, and I always liked philosophy. He talked about Islamic philosophy. And in fact, just when I met him, he had just won the World Cup for Pakistan, which had completely passed me by, because being German, I wasn't raised with cricket, so I had no idea who he was. Anyway, he challenged me about my ethical and moral values, you could say. He asked me, what was the purpose of life? What is the purpose of our life? This is one question each and every one of us needs to ask themselves. Why are you here on this earth? What is your contribution going to be? What is it all about? And I simply didn't have an answer. I hadn't thought about it at the time. So he asked me out, and the first time I turned up to go out with a few friends, I was wearing a mini dress. And we were going out with a few Pakistanis, and he asked me if I wouldn't mind keeping on my coat all evening, because in his culture, women and men don't show flesh. So, okay, I did that, and, it was a little bit odd, but then when I started thinking about it, it actually made sense. Why should a woman, with her skin, showing her skin, get places in life? Even in business nowadays, I'm always surprised why women often show cleavage and wear mini dresses, whereas men always wear suits. I mean, how degrading it is for a woman having to always show her assets, you know, in advertisements, women advertising half naked any kind of product, from perfume to cigarettes to car tires or whatever it is. That actually is degrading. So when I started thinking about it, that was actually one of the first things I sort of understood and began to change in my own life while I was still interviewing rock stars on MTV. My skirts became longer and cleavage higher. What touched me actually most about Imran wasn't his famous friends, but it was how he was going to build. He was actually in the process of building a cancer hospital where the poor people would be treated for free in Lahore because they didn't have any cancer hospitals at all. And he said to me, believe in God and do good deeds. Just like our previous speaker was saying, that is the essence of being a Muslim. Imran also talked a lot about spirituality. The fact that we are made of mind, body and soul, and our soul needs nourishment like the body. You very soon realize having a new handbag or a new pair of shoes only gives you joy temporarily. You don't otherwise ever get satisfaction. So actually, my discussions with Imran were a little bit of a wake-up call for me. He gave me a lot of books to read. Well, in fact, the very first book he gave me, Man in Islam, really resonated deeply in me. To my great surprise, the doctrines made sense. The idea that there was one God, the creator and destiny of the universe, absolutely powerful, infinitely good, compassionate, ever forgiving. God is greater than anything in the world, yet closer to us than our own jugular vein. I mean, that really resonated with me. I like the idea of worshipping nothing but this one God. Neither fame, nor contacts, nor fortune, nor anything but God. God does not judge you according to your bodies and appearances, but he looks into your hearts and observes your actions, says a hadith of the Prophet, peace be upon him. So I soon became aware of my inner voice, this conscience, you know, when you do something right or do something wrong. And of course there's the beautiful Quranic verse, God shows you his signs on the horizons and within yourselves. So I realized studying Islam really helped me, and it still does, with my daily life. You know, when I felt stressed out and under pressure, the verse in the Quran, that God does not burden any soul with more than he can bear, always encouraged me. You can do it, you know. Or the idea that God rewards our efforts and our intentions gives a very relaxing feeling. As long as you know you've done your best, you leave the rest in the hands of God. The outcome is in God's hands of everything we do. So after 3 years of researching, and my friendship with Imran actually had finished, I realized Islam is not an academic exercise. If I wanted to taste the spiritual fruits and feel the religion, feel the spiritual fruits, there was only one way. Get down on your prayer mat and start practicing. So since then, I must say that inner void is filled with meaning, and prayers, dhikr, reading about Islam, God, how to better your character is my internal inspiration. Alhamdulillah. Of course, a transformation like this, becoming Muslim, you know, journey from MTV to Mecca, does not happen overnight, and it really is a process that takes time. And anybody who wants to take up Islam, I can only recommend, take your time. You know, you don't have to become an angel overnight. My first attempt at Ramadan was a complete disaster. I went out clubbing the night before, was in bed next day with a pounding headache, I had a bit too much of champagne, and gave up Ramadan fasting at lunch. This was when Ramadan was in the winter, I'm ashamed to admit, but may God forgive me my bad beginnings. Since then, I gave up alcohol and am flying through every Ramadan, alhamdulillah. Even now, 18 hours fasting in England. But God's grace, and with this, thank you. You know, you've been doing it for even longer. But with this, I've discovered a very important secret of Islam, and that is, if you go one step towards God, God walk towards God, He comes running to you. But the secret is that we must take the first step. And this, of course, is a hadith of the Prophet, peace be upon him. Now, when I embraced Islam, it was a total disaster for my career. From being an award-winning TV presenter with 7 years of positive press, I was suddenly hounded in the press. Has she lost the plot? Is she supporting terrorism? And within matter of a few weeks, I was sacked from my youth show, despite having had a freshly signed new contract, and for no reason really. And then MTV also finished during that year. And I realized, through my friends and faith, my newfound friends and faith, I realized a lot of things, and that is, for example, to see the world from a spiritual perspective, to understand what is happening from a higher perspective. And I learned that suffering can be good for you. It's a form of purification, it's a test, an elevation. And Rumi, for example, he likens suffering with chickpeas that are cooked in boiling water until they're sweet, soft, and delicious. And I love this hadith that says how wonderful the situation of a believer is. For all his affairs are good. If something good happens to him, he gives thanks for it, and that is good for him. If something bad happens, he bears it with patience, and that is good for him. And this does not apply to anyone but a believer. So, seen from this perspective, the whole of life, no matter what happens, is a win-win scenario. And so basically, all these years later, I came back with my book, From MTV to Mecca. I wrote it in order to lift the veils of the best-kept secret in the West, and that is Islam. People don't really know what it's all about, and that is, what I realized in '95 when I experienced all this Islamophobia, and they still don't know about it. So really, we need to tell people about Islam. We need to befriend non-Muslims and extend our friendship towards them and be patient when they ask stupid questions. Just remember, they only watch the media. They see ISIS all the time, beheading people, killing innocent aid workers and journalists. Of course they think Islam is bad, but they need to understand that that has nothing to do with Islam, that in fact is against the teachings of Islam. So it's up to us. We are all ambassadors of Islam. Whether you're being appointed or not, no matter whether you like it or not, we are all ambassadors of Islam. So I'd like to finish now with a quote from, a little poem from Bulleh Shah, who lived in the 18th century in the subcontinent. Because I found my faith via Pakistan, and this is a Pakistani poet, and it expresses my spiritual quest at the time. You read so many books to know it all, yet you fail to read your heart at all. You rush to holy shrines to play a part. Would you dare enter the shrine of your heart? You're quick to attack the evil one, yet pride is a battle you have not won. You grab for a star you can control, yet fail to grasp the light in your soul. I pray that we all find ways and means to grasp the light in our souls and disseminate it into the world. Thank you very much, and inshallah. Inshallah, see you after this session at the Awakening booth, where I think I have my book and we'll be doing some book signing.